Welcome everybody. Welcome to this another session of the community webinar here at Product Led. I'm super excited. My name is Ramli John, by the way, at from Product Led. I'm super excited to have here George. George is going to be sharing about content marketing strategies for product led companies. He is the managing director at MINUTTIA, and we'll have some Q&A right after. So if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the comments, and then you can even unmute yourself later. But George, how are things with you?
Everything is going well here. Thank you very much for finding the time to jump on this call and join us to all of who has tuned in. And we have some very interesting things to cover today. So really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, I'll pass it off to you. And once again, if anybody has any questions at all during the call, during this session, feel free to drop it in the comments. I can save it for the end, or I can jump right in if it's contextual to what George is talking about. So George, take it away.
Sure. Let me share my screen. Just confirm that,
yep.
that you can see and that everything is okay.
You see it perfectly. Thanks.
Okay, let's do it. So today we're going to talk, as Ramli mentioned, about content marketing strategies for product-led companies. Okay, that's a very interesting topic. And the truth is that most companies, try to approach content marketing, try to do it, but for the most part, they are not approaching it in the right way. Or to put it better, they could definitely do things better. So let's see an agenda of what we're going to cover. First, we are going to give a definition of content marketing. Then we are going to discuss why your lifecycle stage, the stage at which your company is at right now, matters when it comes to content marketing. Then we are going to present three lifecycle stages, just to put things in perspective. We are going to come up with a hypothetical scenario and give an overview based on that hypothetical scenario, so that we make things a bit more clear, and so that help you hopefully resonate with your current situation. And then we are going to jump into the types of content that you should be using as part of your content marketing strategy. And we are going to share some very interesting examples for each of the formats that we are covering. Last but not least, we are going to cover some common mistakes that we see as an agency SaaS companies do when it comes to content marketing. And then we are going to do a Q&A if there are any questions, and hopefully there are going to be questions around the things that we've covered. So first of all, a definition of content marketing, just to start making things clear. Content marketing is a strategy in which a SaaS company consistently creates content in one or several content formats that's valuable, relevant, authoritative, and engaging to its target audience, and distributes it through the channels that will allow the content to get seen and amplified. Okay, now this may seem or may sound a bit general, but if we would like to, let's say, see the words that are the most important here, we would say that first of all, content marketing is a strategy. Okay, a strategy can and should include tactics as well, but it shouldn't be based solely on tactics. So the way you approach content marketing should be primarily strategic and not tactical. Okay. Second, we should spot the word consistently, because when it comes to content marketing, you have to be consistent. You can't say after doing it for 1 month that you have tried, because this is not what content marketing is. Okay, and think about yourself. The brands that you're interacting with, the people you're interacting with on LinkedIn, for example, are the ones that are consistent over a long period of time. Okay, then we have here, as you can see, in one or several content formats. And the reason why this is important as part of the definition for content marketing is because you shouldn't be limiting yourself in just one content format, and you should try to experiment with different content formats to see what's working for you and for your audience. Next, we have highlighted the words valuable, relevant, authoritative, and engaging, because these are all things that your content marketing and each piece of content that you create should have. Okay, these are very important elements. And to dive a bit deeper into that, we can say that, for example, a piece of content may be valuable. You have created the ultimate resource based on a specific topic that you know your target audience is interested in, but you may not, you may have failed to present it in a way that's engaging enough for people to, leave a comment, to share, to link back to that resource, and so on. Then, as you can see, we have highlighted the word target audience because there needs to be a target audience, and it is your work as a con marketer or the person who is trying to do con marketing for the company. You will have to define a target audience, and you need to know, exactly what this target audience needs to hear from you in order to resonate with them, engage, and so on. And last but not least, something that most companies don't do, they spend a lot of time in creating a piece of content, but they will not distribute it. Okay, they will do literally nothing when it comes to getting that content in front of the right people's eyes. Okay, and I would say that your work, your effort, your investment will go for nothing if distribution isn't part of your efforts. Okay, so now that we have the definition covered, let's go to why behind why the life cycle stage that your company is at right now matters when it comes to content marketing. We have 4 main reasons. Okay, the first one is the objectives. An early stage company has completely different objectives and goals compared to a company that's at the growth stage. Okay, hope that makes sense. Then, as you can imagine, companies in different life cycle stages have different resources and have different time constraints when it comes to how they can approach content marketing. Then another reason that's extremely important is the scalability level. Let's say that you are an early stage company, and let's say that you manage somehow through your content marketing efforts to generate 1,000 leads per day. Okay, is this really what you need at this point? And assuming that you are a pre-product market fit company, is it really what you need? I wouldn't say so, because at the scale that you are at right now, you want only a handful of leads that will, be the best leads to convert on a product level. Okay, and last but not least, the why behind life cycle stage matters is because product maturity is something that determines to a certain extent how you will approach content marketing. Okay, and to make this a bit more clear, let's say that you are a company that you are product led. Okay, and you have reached a product market fit, which means that for the most part users find your product, they sign up for a freemium, for example, through a blog post that you have written that has integrated your product inside, and they stick with your product. But in order for you to be able to achieve that, chances are that your product is really good and people stick with it because you have reached a certain level of product maturity. Okay, so this is why the life cycle stage that the company is at matters when it comes to content marketing. Now, let's see very roughly, let's take 3 stages and 3 different cases. In the first case, we have an early stage company. People don't know you, they don't know your product, and quite frankly, it's highly unlikely at this stage that you are product led. Okay, let's say that let's take another company that has managed to find the product market fit. Chances are that at this stage you have a broad set of customers who like using your product, and at this point chances are that you may as well be product led. And last but not least, let's say that we have a company which is at the growth stage, and at this point you have hundreds or even thousands of customers who like using your product and a growing audience who is following your brand. I would say from the 3 stages that we have seen, it's highly unlikely that a company, as I mentioned, can be product led in very early stages, because at this point you are just trying to validate things, you're just trying to figure things out. So what we are going to cover throughout this presentation mainly applies to companies that have managed to reach product market fit. Okay, and more specifically, we are going to assume, as our hypothetical scenario, that you are a SaaS that has strong indications of product market fit. Okay, it's not are we sure if we are there yet? We are there, and you are ready to start using content marketing as a way to increase the number of product qualified leads for your company. At the same time, you have available resources in-house, an in-house team that can essentially implement and execute on a content marketing strategy. And at the same time, you have an agency as well, and you have the luxury of time when it comes to growth, since you are not bootstrapped. You are bootstrapped, sorry, and have no investors to report to. And this is important because content marketing, as I mentioned at the beginning, is not something that you can do for 1 month and wait to see the results. You have to be consistent, and you have to have the luxury of time when it comes to, I'm starting this and I'm investing in this day in and day out, but I don't expect instant gratification. I don't expect results to come up right away. And last but not least, we can further assume that new users can onboard themselves without any human assistance, okay? And many of them convert from freemium to paid after experiencing the value of your product. So I would say, all in all, if we want to paint the picture here, you are a product-led company. You have found a product market fit, good for you. You are ready to start growing, and you have all the available resources that you need, both in-house and an outside vendor to implement a content marketing strategy. And an overview of, based on our hypothetical scenario, some additional things that are important. You are targeting small to medium-sized businesses. You're not selling to enterprises. Otherwise, for the most part, what we're going to cover doesn't quite apply, okay? And at the same time, you are product-led. The average LTV for your product is less than 1,000 US dollars, sorry about that, which means that, content marketing here is totally justifiable, okay? You don't want to build a sales team if the LTV of your product is less than 1,000 bucks. Your company has a blog that's fully functional, which means that you can start rolling out content right away. You don't have to wait for anything to happen or to be fixed. You have a small network of people in the industry, and you will see later on why this is important. You don't need to know everyone in the industry, but you have to have a small network of people. And your website has medium authority that allows you to be competitive at an organic search level, okay? So with all the things that we have covered, based on our hypothetical scenario, you have an idea of what companies are ready to start investing time and resources into their content marketing strategy, okay? Now, what are the types of content that you can use as part of this strategy? We have 3 types of content, and let me just say, guys, that we are mainly focusing on written content, okay? Content that you can write and that you can publish on your blog, for example. And we have 3 types here. The first one, content that's created for a search audience. When we say search audience, essentially, we mean content that's created and that ultimately, hopefully, will get you visibility on the search engines. Next, we have original content. And last but not least, we have storytelling content and opinion-based content, okay? Let's dive deep into each of these types to see what are the formats included in this type and what each type is all about. First of all, content for a search audience. We have 3 categories here. The first one, informational content. Informational content indicates the need for information on behalf of the searcher, the person who is conducting the search and who is searching for very specific things. For example, examples of content with informational intent, what is a concept or a topic, or how to do this specific thing. Then we have content with commercial intent, which essentially is content that indicates commercial investigation on behalf of the searcher. And for SaaS companies, this means, for example, best category or description tools, or product A vs product B, people are comparing solutions, or product A alternatives, okay? People may be using a specific product, maybe they're not happy and they have reached a switching moment and they are looking for alternatives. This is called with commercial search intent. Obviously, it has commercial search intent because people are ready at a better position to get an action with monetary value, such as signing up for a freemium with your product. And last but not least, we have content with what we call internally at MINUTTIA. You will not find this in most guides around search intent. Job to be done content, which is essentially content that indicates the need to get a very specific job to be done on behalf of the searcher and visitor of your website. For example, description template, okay, email or newsletter templates, as an example. As you can imagine, the content that sits in each of these three categories that we have seen, essentially serves a different purpose, okay? And I would say that even though most companies focus primarily on commercial content because, that's where the money is, informational content and job to be done content is important because they serve a very different purpose, okay? But let's, dive a bit deeper in order to see some examples of what we have just mentioned. So we have here an example of informational content with informational search intent by Ahrefs. Okay, this is a guide on how to perform keyword research. And as you can see, the main objective here is to obviously generate organic traffic and awareness and educate. Okay, but as you can see from the screenshot that we have here, Ahrefs is integrating in a very nice and non-salesy way their product. And this is a way essentially of telling the users that and the searchers and the visitors that if you want, to do keyword research based on what I have taught you, you can do it using my product, okay? And a performance highlight here, this piece of content has backlinks from 1,602 referring domains and ranks for more than 800 organic keywords. A tip that we have when it comes to informational content is to integrate your product, assuming that you are product-led and people can, there is no, or there is little to no human assistance required. Integrate your product only if you feel that it will benefit your readers, and don't try not to be promotional, okay? No one wants to read a promotional blog post, even if, there is, obvious value there. Let's see an example of commercial content by email marketing software Musent. We can see here a piece of content on MailChimp alternatives, okay? The main objective here, obviously, is to generate leads. And the performance highlight is that this piece of content ranks in the first position in the US for the term MailChimp alternatives, okay? That's great. And at the same time, it has a traffic value of 42K in US dollars, which essentially means that the terms that this piece of content ranks for have commercial value, okay? There are advertisers who are bidding on the search engine results pages for some of those terms, which means that at the end of the day, this piece of content, there is a high chance that it generates revenue for the business. When you're doing content with commercial search intent, try to be as unbiased as possible and don't say anything that would get your company in legal trouble, okay? And the last format that we have in this category, full disclaimer here, Respona is our client, but we have an example of job to be done content, okay? And here we have 22 outreach email templates that get replies in 2021. People have a very specific job that they need to do when they are searching for outreach email templates. And you need to be there in order to, help them with that specific job that they need to do. The main objective here is obviously to generate organic traffic and raise awareness for the product. And when it comes to performance, the highlight is that, okay, can you still hear me? I had a switch in my...
Yep, I can still hear fine.
Okay, that's great. And when it comes to performance here, we have to mention that the piece of content is ranking in the first position in the US for outreach email templates and has backlinks from 88 referring domains, websites, okay? A tip that we have when it comes to creating job to be done content, make it as easy as possible for the searcher visitor to experience value out of your piece of content. What do we mean by that? If you have a piece of content like that, you wouldn't want to gate it with, and ask as much information as possible. You would like to make it as frictionless and as easy as possible for the person who has visited your website to experience value out of your piece of content, okay? Now, this was the first category. And unfortunately, most companies focus heavily on this first category and neglect the other two that we will see. The reason, I would assume that it's easier to do content that's optimized for a search audience, but there are, many, many benefits when it comes to the other two types that we will be covering. Next, we have, as you can see here, original content. What do we mean by that? We have three formats here: surveys, data studies, and content that's an original framework or methodology, okay? Let's see some very nice examples that will help you, understand what we're talking about for each of the formats here. Example of a survey piece of content by SparkToro. Okay, as you can see here, back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, SparkToro did a survey and asked more than 1,500 SEOs, search engine optimization professionals, on their opinions about Google ranking factors. Okay, and they have created a very nice piece of content around that topic. Now, the objective here is slightly different. We may not be as interested in generating traffic or generating awareness through organic search. The objective here, I would say, maybe the objective obviously for SparkToro and for any of the other examples that we have mentioned is different, but the objective here, as we see it, is thought leadership and at the same time have a linkable and shareable asset, okay? Something that people can share online and that can link back to and refer to when they are creating content by themselves. What is the performance highlight here? This piece of content has backlinks from 280 referring domains, 280 websites. That can result in obviously helping you be more competitive on a search level, and at the same time, it can also pass on referral traffic from some of these websites, okay? Now, a tip that we have here, because many people, when they hear survey, basically they think that this is going to be something extremely difficult. It's not, okay? You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to do a survey with 10,000 responses. You can use a service like Polfis to run your survey, okay? Obviously, there are some costs attached there, but keep in mind that this is going to be a piece of content that's original, okay? It's original to you. No one will have a survey like yours, and people will be able to refer to it, link back to it, share it online, and so on and so forth, okay? Next, let's see an example of a data study by gong.io. Let me just say for the record that I really love the way gong.io approaches content marketing, because it's extremely smart and it's extremely targeted to their target audience. So here, what we have by Gong as an example is a data study they did on follow-up emails, okay? And I would assume that the target audience that Gong has are, salespeople, and more specifically the VP of sales of an organization, okay? And so what's more targeting than a study on follow-up emails, okay? And you can see here that they have beautiful graphs, and I would say that the reason why this works really, really well is because Gong has identified exactly what their target audience is and what the target audience needs to see. The objective, thought leadership, and at the same time, having a linkable and shareable asset. And I would say if we want to see a performance highlight here, we can see a screenshot I took from LinkedIn by the head of content strategy at Gong, Devin Reed, if I'm reading this correctly. And this is a post with 1,600 likes and 315 comments on LinkedIn, okay? This is massive. And I would assume that most of these likes and comments come from people who are in sales, okay? And thus, it's really obvious that it's highly targeted and relevant. Our tip here would be, before conducting a study, make sure you have identified the topics your target audience are really interested in. In other words, you really need to know your audience in order to conduct a study and create a piece of content that will resonate with them, okay? And the last example that we have here, extremely important, is an example of original methodology developed by Backlinko, okay? Here, what Backlinko did back in 2016, by the way, for the record, Backlinko is not a SaaS company, but I'm sharing this because, you know, the execution here was extremely powerful and good, and the results are, you know, speak by themselves essentially. So what Backlinko did back in 2016 is that they published a blog post and essentially introduced a new way of doing a very specific thing, which is to build backlinks for a website, okay? And they gave a name to that strategy. Not only they introduced it, but they gave a name to that strategy. And this is what essentially makes the difference in the performance of that piece of content. So they said that this is a new way of approaching that topic. And we give a name, we give a term to that topic and to that strategy, and we call it the skyscraper technique, okay? And so, as you can see here, what I have on the right of my screen, in this screenshot here, these are the anchor texts that people are using when they are linking back to this piece of content, okay? And you can see that people are referring to it exactly as Backlinko, you know, called it. They called it the skyscraper technique, and people are using skyscraper technique, the skyscraper technique, Brian Dean's skyscraper technique, skyscraper method, skyscraper approach, and so on. This is powerful, okay? Because not only you manage to create something that's original to you, but also you give it a name so that people can call it with that specific name. And the objective here, obviously, thought leadership and having a linkable and shareable asset. And when it comes to the performance, we have 6,273 shares on social media and more than 2,700 referring domains. Okay, this is massive. But most importantly, I would say the fact that you can just give a name to a strategy that you have developed and that people call this strategy with that name, with that term that you have coined or introduced. This is powerful. Okay, this is really, really, really good content marketing. And our tip here, obviously, is to be sure to present a methodology based on a pain point that your audience has. Okay, and give it a specific name. Last but not least, the third type that we have is storytelling and opinion content. And here we have the following formats: personal storytelling, data storytelling, contrarian and controversial content, and network-based content. Let's see what each of these formats is all about. First of all, we have a personal storytelling example from Groove. Here, you share things, stories that you have experienced or things that you have experienced in a business context, obviously, that you know will resonate with your audience, okay? Will generate a buzz and will resonate with them. We have an example from Groove, and as you can see, our example is why I turned down $5 million in US dollars in VC funding, okay? That's powerful. This is an amazing example of personal storytelling, and I would say that it's no wonder why these content formats resonate so well with a company's audience. Now, once again, the objective here may be slightly different, okay, because we are talking about a different type, a different content format. So in this case, the objective could be generate engagement and try to establish an emotional connection between the company and the person who is reading this. Now, when it comes to performance and, you know, mentioning a highlight, this piece of content has almost above 1,900 shares on social media, 105 comments, and links, backlinks from 37 referring domains, 37 websites. This is massive, okay? And our tip here, if you're doing personal storytelling, is that your story should be 100% real. Obviously, you don't want to fake it, and based on something that you know many people have an opinion about. In this case, obviously, the person who wrote this knows that people have an opinion, and this is something that, you know, many people are interested in, whether or not you should take VC money, okay? And so when you manage to insert your personal view and share a personal story based on something that you know many people have an opinion about, chances are that you will spark many interesting conversations, okay? Next, we have a data storytelling example from Adespresso. Here, you tell a story by the main vehicle that you use is data, okay? And you can see here the example by Adespresso. We analyzed 750,000 Facebook ads, and here's what we learned, okay? This is an old post, but look how powerful this is, okay? I'm not interested in Facebook ads. I know nothing about Facebook ads, but honestly, I would like to read this post and learn what Adespresso learned by analyzing all these Facebook ads, okay? The objective here, thought leadership, we know everything there is when it comes to Facebook ads, to create and have a linkable and shareable asset on your website, on your blog, and also product marketing as well, because this may have value on the product level as well, in the sense that people understand what are the best Facebook ads or whatever, and they can integrate that into the way they are using your product. When it comes to performance for this particular piece of content, almost 600 shares on social media, 90 comments, and backlinks from more than 440 referring domains. You see how powerful these things are, okay? People want to have something they will link back to, share, and refer to when they are searching for information around Facebook ads, okay, in this case. Our tip here would be, you don't have to go to the extremes to create a story that's compelling enough. You don't have to analyze 700,000 Facebook ads in order to create a nice and powerful piece of content, okay? Just make sure to keep it relevant to your audience, okay? Contrarian and controversial content, an example. Here we have an example, an article that I wrote a while back on LinkedIn. And as you can see, the title is, you are doing keyword research wrong, okay? Where everyone is trying to convince you that, you know, my way of doing keyword research is better, or this is how to do keyword research, or a 6-step process to do keyword research. Here, as you can see, you can essentially learn a different approach, okay? Basically, I know that when I see such titles, I will definitely click on it and read further, because if I'm doing a mistake, I want to know exactly what mistake this is. So essentially, by telling people that, you know what, whatever you know about keyword research is wrong, here's how to do it right, okay? People will click on it, will read that, and will engage with that. The highlight here, obviously, the objective is thought leadership and generate engagement. And when it comes to performance, this is published on LinkedIn. And it's not that I am a influencer or anything like that. And obviously, we have to think about the business model as well. We are an agency, okay, and we are a low volume business. And thus, this piece of content had 25 likes and 10 comments. But most importantly, when we engage, for example, with prospective clients in sales conversations, they mention that, okay, I read your article about why companies are approaching keyword research in the wrong way. The tip that we have here, and this is extremely important, you have to make sure you know the topic you are covering extremely well, because it won't be difficult for someone to call you out on what you're writing about, okay? In other words, you can't let someone who doesn't know what they are talking about write a contrarian or controversial piece of content. And last but not least, this is connected to what I mentioned earlier about having a small network and why this is important. And obviously, guys, if you don't have it, you can create it, okay? But you can also create content that's based on networking, okay? And we have a very nice example here by Leadfeeder, as you can see, how ConvertKit grew from 98K to 625K MRR by doing 150 webinars in 1 year. I would assume that this piece of content is an interview with the person who shared the information, and some writing, and that's it. It's ready, okay? And it's extremely powerful in the sense that who wouldn't want to know why ConvertKit grew from X amount of money to X amount of money in 1 year just by doing 150 webinars? Not just, but you get the point. The objective here obviously is to get engagement and to have a linkable and shareable asset. And the performance highlight, this piece of content has backlinks by 43 websites. The tip that we have for you here is that the stories you are covering should be compelling enough to resonate with your audience. This story, I would say, is compelling enough, okay? And if you have someone in your network that you feel can share a story with you, you can just jump on a call with them, record the call, and get the transcribe and turn that into a nice piece of content, and you're done, okay? Now, we discussed all these interesting things and we shared all these examples, but the truth is that we see time and time again, many companies repeat the same mistakes when it comes to SaaS companies, repeat the same mistakes when it comes to their content marketing strategy. So here are some of the most common mistakes that we see and that hopefully after this webinar, you will be able to avoid. The first one, invest time and resources in the first type of content that we have seen and neglecting the other two. I know that it's easy to say that we will do just content for the search engines, okay? Because we don't have the time or resources to do the other any of the other content formats that you discussed. I hear that, but trust me, if you try and understand your target audience and see and try to think creatively at the end of the day, you will see that many of the things that you can do when it comes to content marketing don't necessarily require time or resources. And if you have those resources and the time, you have no excuses on focusing on just content that's created for a search audience. The second mistake that we see is companies that do it for just a while and then stop. Okay, content marketing should be strategic rather than just tactical. You have to be committed to the effort. And even though tactics are not bad, okay, as a matter of fact, a strategy should have tactics, as we mentioned in the beginning. There should be a strategy, okay? There should be a strategy with a timeline, and you cannot do it for 1 month and say that, it doesn't work for us. We should stop it and focus on PPC because that's the easy thing to do. Okay, nothing wrong with PPC, by the way, but I'm just saying that content marketing requires a different level of commitment on your end. The third mistake that we see, publishing 1 post per month, I would say that you will not be able to move the needle. Once again, take yourself as an example. The companies that you interact with are most likely companies that are consistent over a long period of time, okay? And at the same time, chances are that you see them repeatedly, over and over again, every week, you see their content. Unless the post that you're publishing once per month can shake up your industry, it's something so amazing that can shake up your industry, I would say that publishing something once per month, this is not content marketing, okay? Creating content without effectively distributing it. This is the fourth mistake that we see. I would say that distribution must be part of the process, okay? You have spent so much time and have allocated so many resources into creating a very nice piece of content. You should make sure to get that piece of content in front of people's eyes, okay? And ideally, the people that are your target audience. So make sure to distribute your piece of content accordingly. Another thing that we see, especially when it comes to content that's created for a search audience, is copying what your competitors do, okay? I would say that occasionally it's okay, and there is nothing wrong with learning from competition, but you should also publish original content, something that will differentiate you from competition. Because if you copy every step and every move that your competitors do on a content marketing level, I would assume that you do that on a product level as well. And I would say that this is not the right approach when it comes to content marketing, okay? You have to be unique, and one of the ways to be unique is by sharing original content, storytelling on opinion-based content, and so on. Another mistake that we see is buying cheap content through marketplaces as a way to keep costs low. Okay, you can go for cheap when it comes to content for a search audience, even though even that will not get you the results that you want. But rest assured that you cannot go cheap when it comes to original content or content that has data, storytelling, opinion in it. I would say that in general, you shouldn't go cheap on content marketing. If you're going to do it all the way, okay? Another thing that we see as a mistake that SaaS companies do is focusing on the wrong metrics. I would say that, let's say that you start investing on content marketing today. Obviously, the metric that will define your success couldn't be revenue right away, but ultimately, content marketing should generate business, okay? So if what you're doing, what you have tried, or what you think that you will try in the future doesn't generate business somehow, then chances are that, you know, this is not content marketing. You are not doing it in the right way, okay? And last but not least, I would say that success is measured equally in all stages of your effort is another mistake that we see. Each stage should have different metrics. And to put this in perspective, let me just share an example. Let's say that you start creating content that's created for the purposes of getting visibility on the search engine results, okay? You cannot say that the metric that will define my success in months 1 to 3 is, you know, how many leads, product qualified leads I have generated, because I would say that this is unrealistic. First, you need to say that, okay, we are interested at this point, since we are starting the effort right now, we are interested in generating organic impressions, okay, step 1. Then we are interested in getting organic clicks, step 2. And then after getting the organic clicks, we are interested in, okay, people are visiting our website, what are they doing, okay? And so I would say that you should use different success metrics in each of the stages of your effort, okay? And that would be it. Let me just stop staring for now.
Awesome, George. Thank you for sharing that. Very insightful. We have already some questions. And first of all, for anybody who has questions about sending recordings, I'll send out the recording, and I'll ask George after if he's willing to share his slides. So thank you so much. The first question is a question around how to decide how many articles you should publish per month in order to get results. Do you just establish a budget and produce how much you can base on that, or do you use a different strategy?
That's a great question. I would say that having a budget in mind definitely helps, okay? But besides that, okay, you have set the budget, that's great. Besides that, you should think realistically, how many pieces of content can I produce and maintain a high quality in every piece of content that I roll out, okay? Because just publishing content for the sake of it, you know, it won't move the needle. It may feel good in the beginning just to make you feel that, okay, we're doing something, but it will not move the needle. So I would say that budget first, that's great. You know how much you're willing to invest. And at the same time, you know, we need to maintain a high standard here. Is it 4 pieces per month? Is it 8 pieces per month? It doesn't matter as long as you maintain that standard.
Interesting. I'm not sure if you already covered that, and you probably covered it in the webinar already in the presentation. But and before I go on, I'm just gonna ask a follow-up question. But if anybody else has questions, feel free to unmute yourself. I've given ability now to unmute yourself, as well as just type it in the comments. But you're talking about that standard. Do you look at for specific things in terms of quality in content, or and like I said, you might have already covered it, but it's just good to just bring it up again. Like what is a good standard? Like what is quality in your eyes, or in Google's eyes as well?
That's a very good question, Ramli. But the thing is that quality is a bit multidimensional, exactly because we are talking about different content types, okay, and different content formats inside those content types, and objectives. And I would say that something that can be considered as, you know, the highest standard it can be for a specific content format may be something that's, we cannot publish a piece of content with 500 words, for example, for that purpose, because it serves a different purpose. It has a different objective. So I would say that this is completely objective and multidimensional, but obviously after a while, after you're doing content marketing for a while, you will be able to understand, that these are our standards, because we know that when we do it this way, it works. And we have tried doing it that way, but it doesn't work. So we know that these are our standards, and every person who is involved in the content marketing processes of our company should follow these standards.
Makes a ton of sense. You're totally right. Like, it really depends on the content, the type you have. So really good point. Next question we have is from Jack. He's asking about your views on GPT-3 in AI content generation tools. In your experience, are these effective to scale your content? So things like Jarvis, Copy.ai, like, what are your thoughts around using AI to generate content?
That's a very good point. And internally, we have started an experiment using these tools. I would say that for long form content, I wouldn't say, or content with opinion in it, or data storytelling or anything like that, I wouldn't say that these tools are there yet. Okay, but if we're talking about content formats like a social media post, or helping you in very specific aspects of creating a piece of content, I would say that these tools can work. Okay, I'm not convinced yet that they can work for long form content, but I'm sure that you can find use cases where those tools can be useful. Okay, now at the same time, I'm not exactly sure how in the long run, because let's be honest, there will be websites that use these tools to generate content at scale. Okay, we all know that. There will be abuse of these tools. Okay, but we don't know how big of an issue this will be in the eyes of Google, and what Google will do in the future in order to make sure that content is written by humans and not by a tool. Okay, so I'm sure that there will be use cases that these tools can work. I'm not convinced that they can work for long form content or content that has opinion in it, and so on and so forth. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see at the same time how important this will be of an issue in the eyes of Google.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really good, interesting question as AI is popping up. Next question I have is from Muhammad. He said, can you give examples of success metrics that can be measured and relevant to ROI for content? Like, what are some specific metrics that you look out for that's related to ROI?
I would say, let's say that you have, let's assume that you're a product-led company, okay, and you have a freemium. The number of leads that you have generated, okay. At the end of the day, guys, as I mentioned, content marketing is not here just to generate likes and shares and engagement and comments. Okay, this is great. This is really great, and it can really help you get that initial traction, and it's really important. But if your content doesn't generate revenue, there is definitely something wrong with your strategy. So whatever the metrics that are important to you on a business level should be the metrics that are important to you on a content marketing level, because content marketing should generate business. This should be its main purpose. It may not be the main objective today that you will kick things off with content marketing, but if you're doing it for a while and you are invested in it, and you have a team and an agency like us, hopefully, or anything like that, then it should generate business. There is no other way, and the business metrics will inform you on what should be important for content marketing as well.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, totally right. I guess our follow-up question to that I have is around attribution. Like, how do you attribute ROI to a content? Like, do you I guess how do you track that this content brought this much in terms of signups or things like that, or do you use UTM parameters or anything else to help you track that stuff?
That's a very good question. And you know what? We work with very big SaaS companies, and we work with very small SaaS companies as well. I can tell you with certainty that many companies, SaaS companies out there, do not track and attribute value to the content that they produce correctly. Okay, and it's a pain point. So I would say that in the beginning of our collaboration with the client, if we see that, you know what, okay, we're talking about doing things with content or SEO or whatever, but here we are not measuring things correctly, we will definitely recommend having analytics tracking set up correctly first, and then we can start creating content. Okay, but to answer your question, once we have this set up, I would say that we focus on two things. I would say that we focus on, you know, like goals as they are created in Google Analytics based on what's specific, based on what's important specifically for that business. And at the same time, which is something that most SaaS businesses miss, we also track assisted conversions, okay, which essentially can show you and can inform you that, you know what, this piece of content may not be the point at which people take some kind of action with monetary value, but it works as a great entry point because people start their journey through this piece of content, and after, I don't know, a few days, they come back and they take some sort of action that has a monetary value for it. So I would say that goals and, you know, conversions, but based on what's important to you, okay, it may be signups, it may be whatever, and at the same time, you should start paying attention to assisted conversions as well. You can see that in Google Analytics, by the way.
Awesome, thank you. I love the questions there. They keep coming in. I think Arlen has a question for both of us, actually. So what do you do for super early stage companies where they're a marketing team of one and they have no budget? And it seems like focusing on content is the right strategy for that company, especially if it's product led. But obviously, good content takes time. What would you suggest for those early stage companies in terms of creating content? And are there any other tactics that they should consider?
My recommendation would be, I understand that you may be at a very early stage with no budget, and it's almost impossible to try to compete with, you know, the big guys in your category in any of the formats that we saw. But one of the things that you can do, definitely, that, you know, gradually could resonate, is sharing stories. Okay, sharing your story, how we did that, how we managed to do this, how we managed to get our first, you know, 100 customers or whatever. People are always and will always be interested in hearing your story. Okay, and at the same time, at such an early stage, I would say that every person who visits your website matters. Okay, and it doesn't make sense to create content for a search audience. Okay, at this stage, what makes sense is that you capture as much of the traffic back to your website as possible. So I would say that if you can publish something that illustrates the value of your product, such as, I would say, a customer story or a case study, then do that. Okay, at this point, don't think about scalability, don't think about competing on content formats that the big guys, you know, are essentially very difficult to compete with. Do something that will help you capture as much of the traffic as possible, which means show the value of your product, customer stories, case studies, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, share your story as well. Okay, this will help you build an audience slowly, and yeah.
Awesome, yeah, for sure. I love what you're saying there. Other things to think about is like either partnerships or kind of co-webinars like what we're doing right now. If there's any way that you can tap or lean into other people's communities, could be a super quick way to start getting eyeballs on your site as well. The next question that I have here is, what's your process for working with an agency for outsourcing content? What does the client need to do, and what does the agency's responsibility? How does that collaboration work?
Okay, we are an agency, so I'm going to answer the question in the lens of an agency. Okay, so I would say that what's extremely important on behalf of the agency as a partner, as a future partner, is to essentially show you exactly where you are at, okay? Help you understand where you are at. Try to understand where you want to go, because obviously you know that. And at the same time, try to bridge that gap, like tell you in a very honest and transparent way that, you know what, I understand that we are here. You want to go here, and I hear that. But you need to know that in order to get there, the investment is going to be that, your commitment is going to be that, and so on and so forth. So I would say that it's a thing of understanding the company's current situation, okay? And this includes everything from where the company is in terms of traffic, for example, how many paying customers, what's the MRR, since we're talking about SaaS companies, what's the investment that the company can do, and at the same time, really get where the company needs to go, okay, and why it needs to get there, and try to explain what it will take to get there. I think that this is what the agency should do, not try to get the client to a contract without setting expectations or letting them know in a very honest and transparent way what it will be required to get there. And also, something that we often forget is that when you start a partnership with an agency, it's essentially a collaborative effort, okay? It's not that they are doing some things and you are doing some things and like you are working independently, you are working together. So there will be commitment on your end as well. And it is the agency's work to communicate that effectively and clearly.
So I love that answer. Thank you for sharing that. I believe we have time for one more. This is from Jack. Does your process change if you're writing content that Google would class as YMYL, which is your money or your life, which is content that, if presented inaccurately or untruthfully, deceptively, could directly impact the reader's happiness?
Yeah. That's a great question. And we have clients in SaaS verticals. The answer here is that if you have to be careful one time when you're writing about any other topic, when you're writing about your money, your life, this is why what it stands for, topics, you have to be even more careful. For example, you don't have to make any promises, okay? And you may have to add disclaimers at the bottom of every piece of content. Now, the things that we do differ based on every case, but I would say that you definitely have to be more careful. You have to avoid making any promises. You have to make sure that everything that you write is factual and accurate and up to date and so on. And yeah, just try to stay on the I would say safe and bright side of things without doing anything shady. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for the time. Thank you so much for your presentation. If people had more questions for you, what's the best place to reach you? LinkedIn, Twitter, anywhere else?
I would say that LinkedIn is the best place to reach me. George Chasiotis, and our company is MINUTTIA with double T. You can search for us and feel free to follow or reach out, and would love to chat. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, George. Thank you for everybody who attended, for asking all your questions. This makes it more fun and engaging. To everybody else, have a great rest of your afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you're calling from. Thank you. Have a good one, everybody.